Hunt 'em Big with Steve Bartylla. Brought to you by Huntworth and these other fine sponsors.
Quite honestly, we try to overcomplicate so many things when it comes to deer hunting, habitat improvement, herding cats / deer management. Frankly, I don't mean to get up on a soapbox, but quite honestly, it's because a whole bunch of people that are telling you how to do this stuff, they don't actually do it and they don't understand it. And or they're trying to sell you on snake oil. Breaking movements down to the very basics. What do whitetails want and need most in this world? They want and or need food. Comfort factor. That does not apply just to, oh geez, I feel nice and warm. That applies to everything. That applies to social stress. That applies to being able to find the resources you need, all that stuff. Whitetails want to be comfortable. They need food, they need comfort, they need water, they want breeding opportunities, and they desperately desire that feeling of safety. The habitat is changing throughout the entire season. So is the bucks, so are the whitetails' physical needs and physiological things that are going on with them. Okay, but really it all keeps coming back to those basic needs and wants and how they can achieve them best. A pattern is really nothing more than something a deer tends to repeat on some type of a relatively regular cycle. It may be every day, it might be 3 times a day, it might be once every 4 days. Okay, but these patterns are changing all the time. They're changing because that habitat is changing, because their wants are changing, all that good stuff. For most of the year, the pattern itself is nothing more than going from bedding to feeding and watering and feeding and back to bedding again. That's it. But now you start looking at the breeding cycle. Back up for a second, those food sources are changing, and so is the habitat, and the weather conditions are as well. When it's really cold, they're going to want some sun when they're bedding so they can maintain that body heat. When it's really warm, they want the opposite. When those acorn crops, when they're nice and fresh and on the ground, man, they want to hammer that, but oh geez, they're gotten infested by worms. Now they're over on the browse. You know, all this stuff is changing out there. It is as simple as bedding, feeding, water, feed, bed. But go ahead and throw the rut into it now. We believe during the rut that these whitetails are running all over like crazy. Man, we can't predict what they're going to be doing. Baloney. Look at what they want. What does that buck want? He wants breeding opportunities. Where is he going to find breeding opportunities? Where he finds estrus does. Where is he going to find estrus does? Where he finds doe concentrations. That animal knows his home range. He knows it every darn bit as well as we know our homes. Yes, their home range is way bigger than our homes, but they're spending 24 hours, 365, every minute of their life in that home range. They aren't going to work. They're not running to the grocery store. That's all within their home. So they understand that home exceedingly well. Do you think those bucks know where those does are likely to be during any time during a 24-hour period? Of course they do. They know when it's feeding time that those does are most likely going to be at the prime food. They know when those does are going to be bedded most likely. They know where those bedding areas are. What do you think he's doing trying to find those does? He's going from doe concentration to doe concentration to doe concentration to doe concentration. Actually, many of the bucks that aren't that patternable earlier in the year for me, I can get all over them during the rut because now I know exactly where they're going to be going. They're going for those doe concentrations. Just remember, all this stuff is changing throughout all the season. We try to make patterning deer sound so complicated and so sophisticated. Why? Because it makes us look so much more impressive. Just understand, patterning is finding a kink in what that whitetail does during daylight. When you find that kink, if you can take advantage of it, jump on it and jump hard and fast, jump smart, but do it now because those patterns are going to change.
Final thoughts.
brought to you by Huntworth. We try to overcomplicate this stuff so darn much. For the majority of season, what are whitetails doing? They're going from bedding to water, food, another food source, back to bedding again. Okay, during the rut, man, we can't predict it. Baloney, we sure can predict what those bucks are doing. We understand what they want. They want estrus does. We know where those dose concentrations are going to be during the 24-hour periods. So during the legal hunting hours, we're going to hunt where those doe concentrations are. It ain't really that hard. Remember, most of this stuff is so grotesquely exaggerated, it ain't even funny.